My name is Elowen Drake, 31 years old. I pull into my parents' driveway as December flakes drift across the pristine colonial, like a screensaver looping the same perfect winter. Denver does this to you, makes cruelty look picturesque. I check my lipstick in the rear view as if a steady hand could inoculate me against what waits inside. Just tell them about the promotion, I mouth to my reflection. Creative director at 31, and the engagement. It should be enough. The trunk holds neatly wrapped presents, and in my purse a modest ring on an installment plan warms my palm like a small coal. The front door yawns open before I knock. Dad's smile is genuine but distracted, already turned toward whatever crisis Mom has marinated all morning. Elowen, you made it, he says, pulling me in with the smell of pine and Old Spice. Behind him, Mom's gaze sweeps over me, clinical as a scan. The green washes you out, dear. I told you the Navy photograph's better. No hello, just an edit note. Just an edit. The living room is a museum. Same nutcracker, same wreath, same unblinking lights. Cousin Jim and his wife hold the love seat like property they've acquired. Uncle Ray baptizes the evening with whiskey. Grandma Eleanor sits in her throne by the window, eyes lined with kindness that doesn't miss a single sin. There's my Elowen, she says, hand outstretched. I start toward her, but Ethan intercepts center stage. Secured financing for the North Office expansion, he announces, as if reading from the book of Ethan. Orthopedic surgery is about to redefine Colorado. Chloe floats to his side with triumph stamped in leather. Senior associate last month, she chirps, doling out business cards like communion wafers. Youngest in firm history. I set my handmade family scrapbook on the coffee table. Hours of curation. Mom nudges it aside to make room for Ethan's medical journal, the gesture so practiced it may as well be liturgy. From her corner, Grandma's eyes meet mine and soften. She remembers what I learned by 10. Praise is a pie you get only if you baked it for someone else. Dinner arranges us like pieces on a chessboard we've been losing for years. China gleams. Dad carves turkey with the precision he reserves for holidays and hard conversations. I sip wine to prime my courage. Daniel and I are engaged, I say, placing the sentence gently in the center of the table. Silence hums. Grandma's soft clapping tries to teach the room how to behave. Mom sets her glass down with the care of someone disarming a bomb. Well, she says, voice even, eyes glacial. I suppose someone had to take you. You're the most useless child we have. The words don't detonate the way they used to. Something in me steps aside, letting the blast pass through a space I didn't know I'd cleared. My phone lies by my plate. I unlock it. The blue light paints everyone's face the same color as a surgeon's mask. Let me show you something, I say, and the steadiness in my voice surprises me. December 3rd, 11:50, to Matthews Leasing. I lift my eyes to Mom. Your Lexus. Her mouth thins. Dad's knife pauses midair. I scroll. November 15th, 2,750. Dad, your knee deductible, met before year end. His gaze drops. October 2nd, 3,200. I turn to Chloe. Bar prep, premium package. The flush rising in her cheeks clashes beautifully with her cream blouse. August 24th, 4,500, Ethan's last student loan snag before the practice loan. Grandma's hand covers mine, a warm weight that says, yes, keep going. 3 years, I say, thumb flicking through a ledger of love rebranded as obligation. 42,000. Not a single repayment. Families help each other, Mom says, reaching for the old script as if it might still fit. We support, I correct, not subsidize identities. Chloe leans forward, voice sharp. No one forced you. A thin laugh escapes me. Right, no gun. Just the promise that if I paid, I could sit at this table and be seen. What exactly are you implying? Mom's tone is cooling lava. Nothing implied, I say, meeting her gaze. Only facts. The room tightens. Dad's confusion is almost tender. He wants a version of me that doesn't rock boats. He wants a daughter who never learned to swim away from shore. My lease renewal depends on the bonus I saved, I go on. The bonus you asked for half of last week for a bathroom remodel. Dad's head snaps toward Mom. Margaret, he says, the name a question that has been waiting 10 years to be spoken out loud. I lift my left hand, the ring catching light, humble, determined. Installment plan, I say lightly. Because when I save, an emergency texts me from this table. Silverware rattles when Mom slaps her palm down. How dare you air private family business, she hisses. When I tell people what you've done, what I've done, the quiet in my question stills the air. Paid for a family that insists I come with a receipt? For a heartbeat, the old spell cracks like ice. I see Ethan hesitate. The surgeon in him recognizing a wound, the brother in him pretending it isn't bleeding. I see Chloe calculate optics with a lawyer's brain, a daughter's denial. I see Dad staring at a ledger he never opened. And I see Grandma, whose smile edges toward pride. I close the banking app. The Bank of Elowen is closed, I say simply. I gather my purse, the scrapbook, my steadiness. If you want me, you can have me. If you want my money, call a lender. I don't slam doors anymore. The quiet click of the front door feels louder. Outside, the snow has decided to commit. My footprints press a fresh start into the driveway. Behind me, chaos rearranges the furniture without me. Elowen! Dad's breath clouds in the porch light. Cardigan, worry, a man divided. Please, wait. Not tonight, I say, unlocking my car. The small domestic sound of keys against a good decision. Through the window, I glimpse Grandma's hand on Mom's wrist, a boundary enforced by someone who survived wars larger than family politics. The drive home is a mercy. Empty roads, Christmas lights that don't ask me for anything. No tears, just the unfamiliar weightlessness of not carrying 6 other people's balance sheets. I park, and the hallway smells like someone else's cinnamon. Daniel opens our door before I knock, as if he felt the pressure change across town. Your mom called 3 times, he says, taking my coat. I didn't answer. Good. I toe off my boots. The apartment glows with ordinary warmth. 2 wine glasses wait on the counter like a promise I forgot I made to myself. I silence my phone and place it face down. We should frame it, Daniel says. Frame what? The quiet. He smiles. It looks good on you. We sit close on the couch, the kind of closeness you earn by telling the truth. It won't be over, I say, head on his shoulder. She'll escalate. Somewhere in my chest, a wire tightens, then releases. Emails, public scenes, people she thinks she can recruit. Then we'll prepare. His voice is the opposite of Mom's. No edge, no theater, just a steady axis. You don't have to prove anything to sit at your own table. I think of the scrapbook under my arm, nudged aside by a medical journal, of photos where I'm always half out of frame, of the ring that is small, like a seed. In the morning, the sun will melt tonight's snow, and the sidewalks will forget where I walked. But my steps will remember. I breathe in, out. The quiet holds. Somewhere across town, Margaret Matthews is drafting a subject line. I can hear the keys already. By morning, the houseplants in our window are bright and smug, drinking in the pale winter sun as if nothing seismic happened the night before. My phone hums face down on the table, then again, the sound like a trapped bee. When I finally flip it, the subject line waits, crisp and rehearsed, concerning Elowen's betrayal. The sender list reads like a family reunion roll call, plus a few of Dad's old colleagues who haven't thought about me since my 8th grade recorder solo. I open it because some wars require you to know the terrain. The letter is beautiful in the way storms look beautiful from a distant ridge. Margaret's paragraphs are clean, lawful, drenched in injured civility. She praises the importance of loyalty, the sacrifices parents make, the tragedy of a daughter who forgot where she came from. She never names an amount, never mentions a Lexus or a deductible or a bar prep package. Instead, she holds up a silhouette and tells everyone to fear it. By the 3rd sentence, I can hear her voice in the words, how she pauses before selfishness, how she presses her mouth flat on values. A P.S. invites prayer. Daniel reads over my shoulder, eyes skimming with teacherly efficiency. You knew it was coming, he says, not unkindly. I nod, because last night we named the next moves. A story told to as many mouths as possible, a public scene, an attempt to yank me back into orbit. Knowing doesn't soften the sting. Paper cuts are small, but they smart for days. Chloe calls before coffee. I let it ring out, then watch as the voicemail transcription loads in staccato chunks. How could you? Mom can't get out of bed. I had to take a personal day. Everyone's shocked. Her commas are tears. Her periods are pointed nails. When the phone rings again, it's Dad. My thumb hovers, then taps accept. Your mother doesn't know I'm calling, he says in a voice smaller than I remember. She's having a hard time. So am I say, not bitter, just learning how to make declarative sentences fit inside my mouth. Dad, did you know about the transfers? A pause long enough to develop film. Not all of them, he admits. She always said, small gifts. I didn't look. Something inside me sags at his honesty and rises at the same time. Truth has a way of separating things cleanly. After he hangs up, I open the laptop Daniel pushed toward me when I woke. The spreadsheet from Christmas blooms across the screen. Date, recipient, purpose, amount, my own private archaeology. I add a tab labeled emails and calls and start logging. Margaret's subject line, Chloe's message, Dad's midnight murmurings. I pull texts into a cloud folder, scan receipts, drag in screenshots. On the desktop, I create a new folder named Family Boundaries. The name looks absurdly clinical for something that feels like a living animal curled around my ribs, but it steadies me. I've made scrapbooks since I was a kid. This is the first one that might actually save a life. At work, I half expect whispers to collect like condensation on the glass of my office door. Instead, the agency hums with deadlines and a surprise delivery. The Denver Business Journal wants a photographer for a profile piece. Youngest creative director at Altitude Marketing. Our receptionist, Sanjay, slides a printout under my mug with a grin. We're stealing your good side at noon, he says. While the external world applauds, my personal inbox performs a different song. Betrayal. Family. Christmas. Threads braided with cousins' polite confusion. And two of Mom's friends wielding spiritual concern like a measuring tape. In therapy, Dr. Levinson leans forward, elbows on knees, that hovering stillness she uses when she wants something to land. Your family's reaction belongs to them, she says. It is not a boomerang you have to catch. I carry those words like a talisman into the week, and when the cafe ambush arrives, I feel their shape in my pocket before I feel the heat rise in my face. Copper Kettle is half my sanctuary, half my office annex. Sunlight floods the corner table. The barista knows my order and sometimes spells my name right. I'm spreading briefs beside a sandwich when I sense the shift. Voices drop. A dozen eyes pivot for the show. Mom stands at the table's edge in a coat more expensive than the espresso machine. Chloe, tucked behind her like a shadow with mascara. We need to talk, Mom says, volume calibrated to carry. She sits without being invited. Chloe sits because that's how the scene was blocked at home. How could you do this to your family, Mom starts. Softer but no less sharp. After everything, Chloe supplies, eyes shining. Dad's knee is 80% covered, I say gently. Let's not move the goalposts. Mom blinks, regrouping. She was counting on a tighter field, on the old quarterback who apologized for interceptions she didn't throw. I take a slow sip of coffee and set the cup down with a click that feels like punctuation. I love you, I say, and mean it. But love doesn't require sacrifice. A murmur ripples. A spoon clinks nervously into a saucer. Before either of them can escalate, Vera, the manager, appears with the protective aura of a bouncer and a kindergarten teacher. Everything okay here, Miss Drake? She asks, eyes flicking to Margaret, with the politeness reserved for people who complain about temperatures of beverages. Your usual table is always reserved. Everything's fine, I say. My mother and sister were just leaving. The quiet in the cafe rearranges itself. Mom's mouth opens, then closes. Chloe fumbles for indignation and comes up with damp air. I count out cash for 3 coffees and place it between us. The last bill I'll pay for you, I say softly. Not a threat, not a triumph, just a door that will not reopen. Rebecca lifts her phone an inch at the corner table and meets my eyes. Her expression is a question. Do you need this? And I answer with the smallest nod. Not to post, to have. Back at the office, my supervisor listens without interrupting as I sketch the outlines of the cafe scene. Family drama is not a KPI, she says briskly, and by end of day, Sanjay has installed a soft gate at reception. Visitors for Elowen must be cleared, the memo reads. The boundary lives on paper now, a small miracle in 10-point font. Evenings become steadier. Weekly lunches with Grandma Eleanor move to Thursdays. She prefers the soup special and the way the light lands at 1 o'clock. She says little about Mom, less about Chloe, and nothing at all about the money. Instead, she asks what it felt like, in my bones, to say no and sit still. Like learning how to breathe without bracing for a blow, I say, and she pats the back of my hand, proud of a granddaughter who finally learned an old woman's trick. The package arrives on a gray Tuesday, an envelope, the weight of a tactic. When I open the door, Mom is on the landing, eyes rimmed red, but makeup immaculate. May I come in? She asks, peering past me into the warm apartment. I'm preparing for my engagement party, I say, staying in the threshold. What is it? Her hand trembles artfully as she passes the manila envelope. I found these in the attic. Thought you might want them. Inside, photos I've never seen. 6-year-old me blowing out candles. 10-year-old me holding a ribbon. 16-year-old me in a department store dress. The images tug on something pre-verbal, the whisper that says, "See? You were loved." I thumb through until my thumb stops of its own accord. In each frame, I'm a fraction out of center, half-turned, edges blurred like a rumor. I remember taking more pictures than I was in. The family is falling apart, Mom says, voice softened to tragedy. Your father is devastated. Ethan barely speaks to us. Chloe cries herself to sleep. She slides a card across the envelope. Dr. Williamson, family counseling, as if offering a sacrament. Next Tuesday. We're all committed to attending. Even Grandma thinks it's wise. Grandma would never say that without calling me first, I reply, and the flash of irritation in Mom's eyes confirms it. Thank you for the memories, I add, tapping the envelope, feeling its weight. But this doesn't change anything. Her mouth tightens. At the mention of the engagement party, tomorrow, it tightens further. Your father misses you, she tries. Dad knows where I live, I say, and close the door as gently as I left the house on Christmas. After, I lean against the wood and breathe until quiet returns. That night, Daniel spreads the photos across our coffee table like a detective. Notice anything? He asks. His finger moves from Christmas morning to graduation to a beach vacation. I follow the line he draws. I am always to the side. You started babysitting the Peterson twins here, he says, pointing to an image of me at 16, standing beside 2 matching blonde girls whose bows cost more than my shoes. 3 nights a week, $20 a night, which became Chloe's dance fees, which became my parents' anniversary trip, which became a family economy with one unacknowledged banker. I open my laptop again and add a folder. Evidence of pattern. It sounds dramatic until you need it. I slide in a scan of the photos, date estimating with the backs of my eyelids. When the vineyard option arrives 3 days later, offered by Rebecca with the expedience of someone who refuses to let me drown, I don't want to believe in luck. I want to believe in cause and effect. Say no, breathe, room opens. We visit at sunset. Rows of vines knit the hill into green corduroy. A stone house leans against the slope like a shoulder. I stand in the golden light and imagine walking toward it as people I love stand and mean it. It's perfect, I whisper, and feel something tight unspool. The next morning, our original venue calls. Catastrophic plumbing, the coordinator sighs. Officially, the calendar dissolves for 3 months. Unofficially, I picture a phone tree, a favor owed, the soft hand of someone who loves leverage. I don't say my mother's name out loud. I don't have to. Daniel squeezes my hand, and we spend the evening calling vendors, triaging what we can salvage. It looks for a minute like defeat. Maybe I should just let her help, I say at last, hating the way the sentence tastes. It would be easier. 20 minutes later, Rebecca knocks. This is exactly when you don't cave, she says, dropping her bag on our couch. The first storm after a boundary is the one designed to make you run back inside. She opens her laptop and pulls up photographs of the vineyard at noon, at dusk, in rain, in winter. Each image centers the aisle. Each image centers the bride. You're in the middle of the frame, she says, and the words sink like a stake into new ground. I fall asleep with a printed map of the vineyard on my nightstand and a strange, stubborn calm in my chest. Across town, I imagine Margaret at a kitchen island, arranging her own next move like silverware. I do not pray she changes. I pray I don't. Somewhere on my phone, Dr. Levinson's voice memo waits. Their reaction belongs to them. I press play, let the words fill the dark, then turn the screen face down until it's only my breathing and the lamp's quiet hum. Stop running, the quiet says. Stay in the frame. The night before the engagement party smells like oranges and nerves. Daniel hums off-key in the kitchen while arranging platters of appetizers. The fairy lights we strung across the backyard pulse softly, testing the limits of the extension cords. I pace between our living room and the patio door, trying not to imagine which disasters my mother might still be planning. Do you think she'll show up? Daniel asks, half dreading the answer. She wasn't invited, I remind him. But since when has that ever mattered? He nods, lips pressed thin. Then we'll deal with it. By 7 the next evening, the backyard has transformed into something cinematic. Rows of chairs, gold-rimmed glasses, catching the amber light. My coworkers mingle with Daniel's teacher friends, laughter layering over the jazz playlist. Grandma Eleanor arrives first, wearing a cream shawl and carrying lemon squares wrapped in foil. Dad follows a few minutes later, tie crooked but smile genuine. When he hugs me, it's the first time in years that he doesn't smell like compromise. I'm proud of you, Elle, he whispers. You look free. I barely have time to respond before a murmur sweeps through the guests. Heads turn toward the garden gate. Chloe stands there, breathless, red-faced, her designer heels sinking into the lawn. Behind her, Ethan hovers, with the hesitant guilt of someone dragged into battle. Family should be invited to engagement parties, Chloe announces, her voice slicing through the music. Conversations die mid-laugh. Forks pause. The air rearranges itself into tension. Daniel's hand finds the small of my back. Want me to handle it? He murmurs. I shake my head. No, this one's mine. Chloe strides forward, chin trembling with fury. You can't just cut us out because you're embarrassed, Elowen, because you want to look like some perfect little success story while your own family... Chloe, Dad interrupts softly. This isn't the place. She ignores him. Mom's been sick with worry. She says you won't answer her calls. Do you even care what you're doing to us? I draw a steady breath. The crowd has shifted subtly closer, unsure whether to step in or watch the show. My coworkers, marketers who've built entire careers studying human behavior, pretend to sip their drinks while analyzing the drama. Of course I care, I say finally. That's why I stopped paying for it. A ripple of quiet laughter passes through the group. Chloe's face floods crimson. How dare you humiliate us like this, she hisses. Grandma's voice slices clean through the chaos. Family should celebrate, not sabotage. Every head turns toward her. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't need to. The words carry the weight of 80 years and 100 quiet wars fought behind closed doors. Ethan shifts awkwardly beside Chloe. Dad's jaw tightens. Finally, he exhales and straightens his shoulders. I'm staying, he says, to celebrate my daughter. Chloe blinks, stunned. For the first time, she realizes she's lost her audience. Tears glint at the edges of her mascara as she spins on her heel and storms toward the gate. Ethan hesitates, watching me, then follows her, but not before glancing back once, an unspoken apology flickering behind his eyes. The party resumes, cautiously at first. Daniel's friend from the faculty taps a glass with a spoon. A toast, he declares with mock formality, to Elowen and Daniel, two extraordinary teachers, one of history, one of boundaries. Laughter bursts through the crowd, dissolving the tension. Even Dad chuckles, the sound rough from disuse. Later, as dusk settles, I find Ethan waiting near the dessert table. Can we talk? He asks quietly. His hands are buried deep in his pockets, eyes shadowed with regret. We step aside, behind the rose trellis. He pulls an envelope from his jacket and presses it into my hand. I never realized what was happening, he says. Not really, not until Dad showed me your spreadsheet. Inside, there's a check, exactly the amount I paid toward his student loans, plus interest. My fingers tighten around the paper. I don't want your money, I say, but he shakes his head. It's not repayment, he says. It's acknowledgement. I'm also covering Dad's medical bills going forward. It's the least I can do. For a moment, I can't find words. The silence between us is thick with years of rivalry, of me being the measuring stick for his success, of him never noticing the cost. Why now? I manage. He meets my eyes. Because for the first time, I saw what it cost you, and what it cost him to let it happen. It's the first honest thing he's ever said to me. We talk for 20 minutes. Small things at first, then real ones. He admits how Mom made him feel indebted, how she used guilt like currency. I confess how tired I am of being angry. When he leaves, he hugs me awkwardly, as if testing the weight of forgiveness. That night, Dad texts. Chloe called in tears. Ethan's standing firm. Your grandmother's proud of you. I smile at the screen. It feels like the first fracture in an old wall, finally widening into light. The next morning, my phone buzzes again. Venue cancellation confirmed. Catastrophic plumbing issue, the coordinator repeats apologetically. I don't need to ask which hands turned the wrench. Daniel looks up from the couch, disbelief and exhaustion mixing in his voice. She actually did it? She'll say it was fate, I murmur. Or God's will, anything but control. We spend hours calling vendors, trying to salvage what we can. Each new obstacle feels too deliberate to be coincidence. The florist suddenly overbooked. The caterer misplaced our deposit. By evening, I'm sitting on the floor, surrounded by half-written invitations, my resolve cracking under fatigue. Maybe I should just let her help, I whisper. It would be easier. Daniel kneels beside me. Easier isn't peace, he says gently. It's surrender. Before I can reply, there's a knock on the door. Rebecca bursts in, laptop in one hand, determination in the other. We're not giving her the ending she wants, she says. My client owns a vineyard outside Boulder, private, available, and perfect. Their daughter's wedding was last week. 3 days later, we drive out to see it. The road winds between gold hills and low pines dusted with frost. The vineyard stretches for acres, rows of vines catching sunlight like wire. A stone house with a red roof perches at the top of the hill. It's beautiful, I whisper. Rebecca grins. It's yours if you want it, and before you ask, yes, they'll take your deposit tomorrow. Daniel wraps his arm around me, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe without checking my phone. When we return home, the inbox is quieter than expected. No new messages from Mom, no dramatic pleas. Just one line from Ethan. She's furious, but Dad's holding firm. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I type back, thank you for standing your ground. That night, I sit at the kitchen table with the old family photos spread before me again. Daniel joins me, tracing the edges of the pictures. You see, he says, always half out of frame. I study the images, Christmas mornings, birthdays, graduations. I'm always blurred, cropped, or turned away. She never wanted me centered, I say quietly. He kisses the top of my head. Then start now. I open a fresh photo album on my laptop. Title, The Future. The first entry, a shot of the vineyard bathed in golden light. For once, I'm in the middle of the frame. Across town, I imagine Margaret sitting alone in her immaculate kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator, the only applause left. She's planning her next move, but something has changed in the air. The old gravity no longer pulls as hard. The next chapter will be mine to write. The wedding morning breaks soft and gold, sunlight sliding through sheer curtains like a benediction. The vineyard smells of dew and earth and promise. Daniel hums a nervous tune somewhere behind the closed bedroom door, and I sit at the vanity staring at my reflection, not checking for flaws, just confirming I'm really here. For once, I don't look like a daughter trying to earn her seat at the table. I look like myself. Dad arrives early, tie straight, shoulders squared with new purpose. He left engineering decades ago for management, but a few months back he returned to drafting full-time. Pays less, he says proudly, but it's mine. He offers me his arm. Ready? As I'll ever be, I whisper, smiling. When we step into the vineyard courtyard, the world narrows to sunlight and faces. Rows of chairs gleam white against the green. Grandma Eleanor sits in the front row, her eyes shining like polished silver. 2 rows behind her, Mom and Chloe sit carefully composed, masks of civility hiding the tremor beneath. Daniel waits at the altar, that steady warmth I've come to trust. As I walk down the aisle, the wind lifts my veil, and for one dizzy second, I swear it's carrying away the last trace of fear. The ceremony is simple, unadorned. When Daniel reads his vows, his voice doesn't shake. You taught me what love looks like when it's honest, he says. You showed me that peace isn't silence, it's truth spoken without fear. My throat tightens, but I don't cry. The strength I feel isn't loud, it's quiet, rooted. When the officiant pronounces us husband and wife, I hear Grandma clap first, deliberate, proud. The reception unfolds in a blur of music, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. A small table near the guest book holds 2 items: my industry award from Altitude Marketing and the spreadsheet that once documented 3 years of family loans. It sits beneath the glass like an artifact, not for revenge, but remembrance. Dad finds me near the dance floor, holding a slice of lemon cake. You know, he says, I used to think keeping peace was my job. It's everyone's job, I reply, but not everyone's burden. He laughs softly, shaking his head. I'm proud of you, Elowen, more than I can say. When we dance, I realize he's lighter. Not physically, but in spirit. The years of quiet complicity have peeled away. He's a man learning freedom late, but learning it nonetheless. Later, I catch sight of Mom by the dessert table. She looks smaller somehow, her navy dress elegant, but subdued. For a heartbeat, I consider walking past her. Instead, I stop. Mom, I say gently. She startles, then composes herself. Elowen! I forgive you, I say. Her eyes widen, confusion flickering like static. But forgiveness isn't permission. My home and my finances are off limits from now on. That's not negotiable. Something flickers in her expression. Anger first, then something resembling respect. I was wrong about you, she says quietly. It's a start, I reply. Chloe approaches later during the sister dance, hesitant, mascara already smudged. I'm sorry, she whispers, voice trembling. For everything. I nod. Thank you. It's not absolution, just acknowledgement. The first crack in a long wall. Across the room, Daniel's parents chat easily with Dad and Grandma. The air hums with the kind of peace that feels earned, not borrowed. Mom sits stiffly beside Grandma, and though their conversation looks strained, it isn't venomous. The hierarchy that ruled our lives for decades has dissolved into something unrecognizable: equality. As the night deepens, I step outside for a breath of cool air. The vineyard glows under strings of lights, golden threads across the dark. Daniel joins me, slipping his arm around my waist. Do you feel it? He asks. What? The quiet. I nod. It's different now. It's real. 3 months later, the paint is barely dry in our new brick bungalow. The house smells of coffee and fresh beginnings. On the refrigerator, our MBA acceptance letter sits pinned beneath a magnet shaped like Colorado. Creative director by day, grad student by night, Daniel teases. How did I get so lucky? I laugh. You married someone who stopped funding chaos. Dad visits every Sunday with homemade apple crisp. Grandma comes when she can, her laughter echoing through our kitchen. Sometimes we talk about Mom and Chloe, sometimes we don't. Either way, the air stays clear. How's the financial planning course? I ask Dad as he stirs sugar into his coffee. He grins. Turns out I'm good at budgets when I actually make them. Should have started 30 years ago. In the evenings, Daniel and I sit on the porch, watching snow sift through the streetlights. The quiet no longer feels like waiting. It feels like peace. Christmas arrives again, soft and unhurried. We bake cinnamon rolls, open presents slowly, play jazz instead of pretending joy on cue. When Dad knocks, I open the door without flinching. He steps inside carrying a pie wrapped in newspaper comics. Your mother wanted to come, he says carefully. I told her the invitation still stands, under your conditions. Respect, authenticity, boundaries, I recite. She knows them. When Mom arrives later, she's cautious but composed. She asks before giving advice, thanks us for hosting, and for once doesn't mention money or guilt. It's a fragile piece, but a piece nonetheless. As we take the family photo, everyone stands in their rightful place, not by age or title, but by earned connection. I'm in the center now, Daniel's arm around me, Dad and Grandma flanking us, Mom and Chloe smiling. Tentative, but real. I glance at the camera just before the flash. For the first time, I don't feel cropped out or half-hidden. The Bank of Elowen closed long ago. In its place, something better has taken root. A life measured not by usefulness, but by joy.